bid you welcome as we explore the subject of families, the architecture of families, how they are put together, what has been their role, and well, to be frank, there are but a number of different roles and a dive of different family structures throughout time. For instance, there is a soul family, and perhaps we will begin there. A soul family is a very intimate thing. It is a very intimate place. For as you might imagine, a soul is a very loving thing, a very loving being. A soul remembers, has access to a variety of lifetimes, access to purpose, access to greater discoveries. A soul knows what it knows. It is a little bit like a library. Each soul, then, imagine coming together with other libraries, loving ones at that. And so when a great many souls, loving souls, come together, they form a bond, and that bond can be called a family. It has a structure. It has an understanding. And this bond, well, it is one of the strongest, at least in this universe, at least near this earth. For you see, the soul families that are accorded to the earth, and the earth is, yes, the third dimension is understood to be at times a difficult place, at times a challenging place, and particularly in the third dimension. So a soul that has lived upon the earth, known a variety of lifetimes and circumstances, a soul that has broken certain bonds, barriers, made discoveries, it has earned its right. It has earned its right to be, to know. Now, when a soul earns a right, 'tis not the same as a great success as you might imagine upon a human. 'Tis not sat upon a throne and congratulated, not like that. A soul that earns a right, in essence, earns the right to serve others. Not as a servant, but in service. And so the soul earns the right to choose its form of service. How, and when, and why, and with whom, and for a greater purpose. It is the soul that designs this. At times, then, there are soul families that come together in order to be of service to humanity. Again, remember, 'tis not about becoming a servant to humanity. Your soul is in service to you. At times that may even seem as if it is a taskmaster, even seem as if it is paying no mind, no attention to you whatsoever. But the soul knows what it knows, and it knows what is at stake. It knows how close you are to a great success, how close you are to a summit of understanding and discovery. The soul then sets this course to assist you, for instance. And in the case of the family, the architecture of family, as we are discussing from this perspective, then, the soul has all of this to draw upon. The soul will use all of its family structure to be of assistance to humanity, to be of assistance to you. And so the soul family is likely to be familiar to you in some way. Perhaps you have heard this one or that one be associated with a certain council or a certain undertaking. Well, many times what you would think of as a council, in essence it is a family, a structure. But when a soul describes itself to you as having come from a family, you assume relatives, and where the soul is concerned, well, it is structured a little bit differently. So perhaps you will come to be informed that they are working with this council or that one. A loose space council is also a family. A family, then, A soul family is that which has the similar undertaking, a similar understanding, one that is a bond of service that defines itself in the way that it does. Perhaps it will be of a certain tonal scale, so that one of each complement then forms a complete family, a complete structure, a complete scale. A soul family, then, is also that which comes from an even larger family, a super soul family, again with similar purpose, but joined in a greater way and for a greater purpose, and serving more than a few of your kind or family members, serving an even greater purpose. So you see, a little bit the hierarchy of the soul is no different than your own family, each one having something to contribute, each one feeling a little bit like a sibling, and at the same time a little bit as if mother and father, and more than that as well. The soul family might look a little bit like a star. They have patterns, you know, beautiful geometries. The soul will arrange itself in a geometric pattern that is in complement with how it serves, for there is strength in geometry. The very walls, if you like, of a geometric structure each support the other, each strengthen the other, each complement the other. So soul families in their architecture have very beautiful designs. For instance, one may be shaped as what you might think of as a snowflake, a very unique and beautiful and perfect design. Others may be shaped as a sun and the rays of a sun. A soul arrangement, then, is that which is in complement to itself, and the complement that it is of benefit to itself, to the sum of its parts, and to that which it serves. When a new member joins the family, as is likely in terms of a soul family, a new arrangement is made, perhaps a new geometry entirely. Perhaps a new age will call for it. Perhaps a changing of all those whom the soul family serves. That will also then cause a redesign in the structure itself. You, whether you think of yourself under that concept or not, also form and are part of a soul family. Even while you are here upon the earth, even while you are embodied, even while you are aware or not aware of a purpose, you form part of a soul family, for you are a soul. It is not that you have a soul, you are a soul that also happens to have a human body and happens to be upon and within the earth with another defined purpose. A soul family's purpose is not so defined, not as hard as you might imagine. It is a very loose-based desire. It is formed around desire, not around need. And that desire makes for more and more beautiful and intricate patterns. Imagine that the more that the soul family is of service, perhaps to you or to others, the more beautiful it becomes, the more enhanced, enriched it becomes, the more choice it has. And choice, again, allows one to be of service. To be of service is one of the greatest aspects of being a soul. A little bit as you imagine, angels are also deared and endeared to be of service. 'Tis not as if an angel has a hardship in that it has been confined or assigned to be in service to you. Oh no, it is something quite beautiful. It is something quite enhancing to it, also then strengthening and being of benefit to others. So the soul family then is a structure, is a pattern, is a design around the idea of service, and in this case, service to humanity, service to benefit the whole. And when the whole is served, the sum of its parts become enhanced, enriched, and also served in the process. And so truly the word architecture, very fitting. The word architecture then allows itself to design and to redesign and to remake itself, to reshape itself, as the soul is also able to do. Let us explore other forms, other ideas surrounding the word family, so that you will see the variety of structures that it can take place in all the ways in which you may draw it forth as well. The idea of the gender family, well, that is something else. If you like, in terms of womanhood, for instance, womanhood may think of itself as being sisters to other women. Even if there is a daughter, a mother, or a grandmother, in some way the very gender that binds them makes them all sisters to one another, a very familial term. When mans come together as well, and there is a club-like camaraderie, a partnership or a team spirit, it is also as if it were a family as well. These are loosely based structures, but they are gender families. There is that which binds all women one to the other throughout time. Perhaps one will read of another and feel a kinship. There is an ascendancy in which all women will support one another in raising the vibration or the consciousness, celebrating the womanhood, celebrating the ability to birth, and even celebrating that which is the natural rhythm of life or the rhythms of the moon. And likewise mans as well. Well, they will celebrate then that which is the masculine form, or they will celebrate their ability to rule in the moment, for it has not always been the case. It is well to celebrate womanhood now, and it is well to see that woman be of lower class or subjugated, but know that it has not always been so, and that in its own way woman has also risen to the very pinnacle of the top, sometimes supporting the mans in the process, and sometimes not. So the rise and fall of both man and woman, well, that is something to be understood as well. Each one as if a powerful family, each one a rulership, each one with its own class system, its own caste system. So a gender is a family in itself as well. It binds, it ties, and yes, at times it squabbles over itself or over the spoils of the day, even as other family members might do. But there is something then that binds, woman to moon, if you like, and man to sun, though it has not always been this way. And indeed there has been a time, a truer time, where it was woman that was bound to the sun, and man that was tied to the moon. So this exchange of principles, for that is what they are forces of nature, they are principles, this has been explored in a variety of ways and at different times. There is a family then. There are descendants of the family. They are ancestors to the family, ancestors of great women that have been known through history, ancestors and lineages of great men that have come, those that perhaps have taken to the battlefield, those that have taken and soared to great heights of leadership, and the same be true of women's. This forms a family structure, a family knowing, and without even understanding how or why, gathered together, the men will more than likely come together, and the women's will also more than likely come together. It is not simply the social structure. It is not simply the morals or the codes of the day. It is more than that. It is something within the gender itself. It is encoded that the family members will find each other, will bind themselves to one another, will recognize one to the other, will celebrate, will uplift, will remember together more than they would remember apart. Now, there are indeed circumstances in which the genders will relate one to the other, or dissolve as if they would be, or be non-gender specific, and like that. That is also a form of family. It is the family that lives on the outskirts. It is that which encircles and enfolds from the outside in. There have always been those that live on the outskirts, if you like, on the outskirts of thought or of things, on the outskirts of cities, on the outskirts even of the mind or of the heart. These too are part of the family, but you see they may join, they will come and they will go. They will be first part of one family and then part of another, and then they will depart, and then they will return. And these comings and goings are celebrations in themselves. For there are those that, although they are bound, even betrothed to others, must come and go, sail into farther seas, and return from their voyages, from their mysterious places. And these too then are part of the gender families, belonging first to one and then to the other. For you see, not always has there been gender. There is the understanding of gender and the hinting of gender. But not always has it been necessary, not always has it been of great importance. Now, however, now upon the earth, the gender family, it is very, very, and very important, as the families then now are beginning to restructure themselves. You see, that is the purpose of this topic, that is the purpose of this conversation, to point out to you how it is and how it has been, but also to say what is now taking place and what is in the becoming stages, what is in the forming stages at this time. So it is well to take into account what a gender is. A gender is not simply to say man or woman. It is to say how the feminine and the masculine are aligned, each within. You see, that which is feminine must contain or enfold or support the masculine. The same is true of the masculine. It must care for, involve, uplift, protect the woman. It is encoded into the gender itself. So it is not simply a matter of mannerisms. Again, it is not a social structure that we are describing here, or what is good breeding or good manners. It is not that. It is inherent within the very structure of the gender. It is how it is aligned. It is the polarity of this. It changes time by time, but currently that is the understanding. It is the man gender, the masculine gender, that is known to protect and to uplift, even if it seems not so to you in the world, I tell you. Do not measure by those things that you can see. Do not measure by how many womans you see in the political environment arena. Do not measure by how many sit at the heads of boardrooms. See instead by their good works in the world. See instead by how they are celebrated. See instead how they are watched. For there is power there. And yes, it is the man at times that will fear being unseated of that power, because it is the man that knows that the power that he yields now is not a strong one. It is the man that is in a weak position now, soon to turn over the scepter of understanding, not the scepter of power, the scepter of understanding, the scepter of where wisdom is kept, how secret it is, and to whom it is to come forward. And that is some of the nature of why you see the secreted societies and such. It is because of wanting to protect what little is left, for it is almost time then for man to cede, to yield power, the seat of power, to the gender of woman. Part of that, however, is the very subject that we are discussing now. It is the structure of the family itself that must come together in a different way, that must reorganize itself. To reorganize itself means to rebalance the polarities of masculine and feminine, to reorganize the gender. Thereby you see that there are those that struggle for rights. Yes, this is not uncommon, this is not new, but it is in the way that it is coming together. It is in the way that one will celebrate either one gender or both genders or no gender. It is the families that are coming forward to support one another, the most ancient of families and those that wish to form new structures and new bonds as well. It is of the oldest families and of the newest ones yet to be formed that there is support for this. So the gender families are not at war, as it would seem to you. The genders are not at war, I tell you. And yet they are in the process of redefining what is known and how the structure comes together. Yes, there has been a time long ago in which a man could carry a child, if you like, to carry a child to term, to birth a child. It was uncommon, but it was possible, just as possible as it is now. But it is not necessary, and the woman has not asked it of the man in quite some time. If it were asked, if it were necessary, it would not be very difficult, over a few generations, in fact, could it be restructured, for the family of man is able to thought or to outpicture a need with a desire, and to make it so, in one reality or in another. The very nature, the family of man, the family of gender, would see to that. But again, it is not necessary now. Now it is necessary to destroy and to create an understanding of what comes together and who and why. It is the Shiva and the Shakti, if you like, redefining man's and woman's in the family of each, to blend them together again as one would blend color and flavor, as one would blend into a new harmony, a new progression of sorts. So we leave this to the side for now, perhaps returning to it later for even a deeper understanding. We come now to the nature then of what we will call a tribal family. Here we will couple this with the idea of ancestors, the ancestors of the very great tribes, or the original tribes of humanity, those that have come from the original races, from the original root races. These we will call tribal families, if you like. A tribal family, then, is that which has a certain understanding, a certain root that binds it together. For instance, all those that might celebrate, then, only the Native American traditions, well, that would be a root race or a root family. Matters not if they would be born into this tradition in this life or not. That is what is in the heart. It is the heart of Native American Indian that beats in the heart. So it is a tribe, you see, the tribe is still dwelling within the heart. In this case, it is likely that a tribal family is also being supported from the soul family in this way. Remember that these unique patterns can remake themselves in service to humanity, to a human soul, to a human family as well. So there are, in fact, those of what might be called the rainbow tribe, if you like, or some of the original elder seedings of the human family. And these soul families of rainbow tribe members would perhaps uphold these rights, these privileges, making certain that this race continued upon the earth, making certain that it was strong, making certain that ancestors found other ancestors from one tribe or another to continue to bind them together, to assist them in remaining strong and true to one another. All of this, then, the soul family would do, aligned with the tribal family. Now, to say tribe is that it is a loosely based ancestral term, so it is not truly in the sense of an Indian tribe that we use this. It is more in terms of the ancestral term. Those that are bound by a common purpose, by a common thread. For instance, even those that are very warlike, they would also have a tribe consciousness. They belong to a tribe family. The idea to make war, to conquer in order to succeed, it is a very ancient way to bind oneself. Those that would come together in a certain regiment of army or what it would be, they would also have bound themselves based upon tribal laws in some way. To uphold their own or to slay their own, as is necessary, this is the rulership of a tribal family. In a tribal family there is just that. There is a strength. There is a rulership. There is more of a hierarchy. It is a family, but it is based on subordinates. And it is based upon those that can rule and those that must hold rule, not entirely as if with an iron fist, but those that can certainly show that there is a sense of authority. So a tribal family is based upon an authority. Now, in certain families, you will find those that you would consider, well, Victorian in origin, or those that would be authoritarian, you would say. Perhaps there is one family member more than others, and so their history Their comings would be more from this, from a tribal ancestry, rather than from another more gentle form of family. So a tribe, then, a tribal family, are those that come together also in purpose, but in purpose that recognizes authority, even if there is a scuffling for it, even if there is a fight for the position of authority, still the family would rally round the powerful one. And the others, well, even if they were subjugated, they will hold their ground, they will hold their position, for the tribe fights with honor. So the tribal families live for a certain principle then. They gather round a cause or an idea, and even that is enough to bind the family. There are rules associated, principles and laws associated with tribal families. There are ancestral rites of passage that are followed. And although these may be altered from time to time and generation to generation, it is still the laws themselves that are obeyed. And to break a law, well, in some ways it is to disgrace the family. It is to put something or someone above the family. And there is little that is as valuable as that. The tribal family, then, has been upon the earth for a very, very, very long time. Nomadic families were tribal families, each one honoring the principles of others. Your caveman of old was a tribal family as well. And whether they had lived or died, they did so under that one authority, by supporting that, and by not going against that. So it is a different form. It is almost as if it were a system of government, except it is truly a very family, very familiar, very brotherly aspect. Brothers in arms, brothers in truth, together from the beginning, together to the end, one for all, and all for one, and like that. So those that support this belief, this structure, feel most comfortable in a tribal family, most comfortable in that particular architecture. And so it will remain upon the earth, long after there are many other ways to define life, long after other softening of the ways come. They will be those of the older ways, those of the tribes, less popular, more in the background, but they will remain. This kind of brotherhood is not easily undone. It is not easily torn apart. This form of brotherhood, of family, is one that understands the nature of security, of secrets, of protection. And it is important. It is important to the earth and is celebrated by the earth. And so be it. Now we will describe then a different kind of family that we will simply call a purpose-filled family. Here you may have a variety of disjointed individuals that come together for one purpose or one cause. Perhaps it is to protest something. Perhaps it is to uplift something. It is a coming together for a common cause. For instance, you may say those that are gathered under the New Age principles. This is a purpose-filled family. There is a coming together of many that would perhaps not have as much to do with one another, except that the coming of the newer age, or the participation in that purpose, that common cause, brings them together into a family. The family of light, you might say. The family of humanity, might say. In some way it is a purpose, the purpose being discovery, the purpose being becoming more human or more truth-like, or what it will be. A purpose-filled family is often supported by other structures as well, and it is uplifted. It is temporary in its own way, and yet there is a permanence too, that there is always some purpose that will bind them together. Notice that is a word that has been used rather much in this discussion, to bind, to bring together. In this case, it does not mean to chain. It does not mean to insist that ones must be together. It is the binding principle that we are speaking of here. There is a principle, that which binds atoms together. You see, what happens when atoms are bound together? Well, they become something rather physical. They become something that makes something else. And so in this structure, then, the binding principle is that which allows the next to come forward, whether it is the next generation, or the next aspect, or the next truth, or the next level, or the next dimension, or like that. It is the binding principle of all things that creates the architecture. When the binding takes place, there is an architecture, there is a foundation, there is a scaffolding, there is an uplifting, and to these, like a magnet, then the families are drawn. They are drawn to the patterns that are seen, that are felt. They are drawn to the architecture itself. It is not as if they are given a synopsis that says, look here, this is the purpose of this family, this is why we have come together, this is how long we will be together. It is not that. It is almost automatic. It is so unconscious that it is very conscious. It is very visible. It is very present. One sees and one knows, this is where I belong. I am certain of it. This is where I have always wanted to be. I am with this people or my people. I have memories here. I have purpose here. So you see that recognition where one says, I know this one. I know you. I know you. I know where you have been. I know what you think and what you do because I am like you. So here you have then the purpose-filled family. And that is both at the soul level and at the personality level or the spiritual level or the heavenly and on earth level as well. So a purpose-filled family can be a physical one or a non-physical one. It exists both upon earth and upon other planes as well. A purpose binds, and it binds well. It holds one together, and often those that are bound by one purpose are also bound by others as well, for there are similarities. There are similarities in the beating of the heart, in the pulse, in the awareness. There is a knowingness. There is a true knowingness that this purpose, this deeper, greater, yearning purpose, is enough to hold and to bind. So be it. Think to your life now. Think and see. Where do you belong? What can you remember? Think of what we have spoken of thus far. Think of the soul family of which you are also a part, for you are soul more than have a soul. You form a soul family. You are part of that. You have a gender upon the earth. You are part of that family as well. And yes, more than likely at times you have been part of or with a tribe or a tribal consciousness. So that is likely, not for all, but it is likely, I tell you. It is likely that you can imagine this. Turn it to your imagination and you will have a yes or a no. And then we have already described then as well the purpose-filled family and what it is that brings that together. Well, similar to the purpose-filled family and to the tribal family, but unique enough to give it its own category, is the ancestral family. That is what you have come from. Yes, they are your ancestors, even if you do not feel a part of your family, even if you have been adopted into the family in which you are now, it is likely that you share similar ancestors. Even if your lineage is completely different, even if you find your color of skin and race different, still, I say to you, it is likely that you share the same ancestors, for simply because you have chosen to be of a different color now, or a different vibration, or a different belief, or a different religion or creed, or what it will be, it is still likely that you are bound by ancestral families and you are drawn to them as well. You will be drawn to the drum. You will be drawn to a certain holy writ, if you like. It is the ancestors that bind, that call you to them. Now, an ancestral family is that which simply calls to you a little bit like an echo. Perhaps something was left incomplete. Perhaps you believed in something a little bit too strongly and must now dissolve that, dilute it a little bit. For instance, those that marry into other religions and beliefs and ideas, it is because it is important as well that they dilute an understanding that has become a little bit too dense, too strong, too rooted, or what it will be. It is root-bound, and it must be freed. And so at times where the intensity has been too much in the ancestors, those that follow then, the generations that follow, they must unbind in this case, or at least loosen the binds a little bit. And at times this will be by the introduction of another race, or another belief, or another idea, or even another gender. Yes, even that. And so to dilute then is to dilute that which has become too dense. It is not to dilute something that is fragrant or perfect and to say it is no longer as worthwhile. To dilute something is to strengthen it in its own way. It is to reduce the density that it has in order to form something that is bound by a lighter energy. And it is the ancestral family that is perhaps able to do this more than any other. The ancestral family is the lineage, and the lineage is contained in your DNA. For in your lineage, in your DNA, you find not only your physicalness, but that which is non-physical. So an ancestral family then relates to the DNA in both physical and non-physical ways. Your ancestors were not always physical beings, so here we are not simply looking or examining those of one country or another, those who migrated here and there. It is more than that. It is something that was a deep belief. It is something that has raised a consciousness of all concerned. It is an experience that each have known, each to their own way. For instance, those that may have fallen with a certain empire, well, they may have formed a certain ancestry, as then they were taken with all of their belongings elsewhere. Now they were citizenry of one country, and in the next moment they are citizenry of another, and everything changed. That common thread binds them. And all future generations then will come from those ancestors that lived a life in which everything changed. Think to yourself now and look upon the life that you are living now. This is also a time and a life in which everything is in fact changing. And so in your own way you are both the descendants of other ancestors, of great generations, of others that have come from another age in which you are the last of the kind. And so you are the last of a kind and the first of a kind as well. Again, part of an ancestral family, finishing one branch of the family and at the same time creating and beginning another. Ancestral families then, well, they are of great benefit to you. In some ways they tell you a little bit about who you are based upon who you were. You imagine yourself part of these great ancestors. Imagine how they might have lived. Imagine what it would be like to have been them, not realizing that it is likely that you were them, and that is why you are so very interested. That is why you give it as much mind or thought. So it is very interesting to consider your ancestors, as not only did you have them, but it is likely that you may be them as well. The ancestral family also then connects to the stars. For how many ancestors might you have? How many generations will you go back in this study? It is well to think that you have a few generations here and there, but what of the generations of the stars? What of those that knew themselves even then, even before and beyond the earth plane, before there was a need for physical bodies or definitions and boundaries of countries? Before there was physical bodies, you still had families, and you still had ancestors, and you still do. So your ancestral family, well, you have many of these as well. And how far back will you go? Do you believe that we are speaking here only of the earth? No. And before then as well, and between there as well. So see now, continue to see how interesting, how important are the layers and the levels of family, how finely veiled some are, how much structure they give to your life, how much tone they give to you. You thinking that you are only this or only that, or a blend of this or that, and thinking only a few generations back. And here we have journeyed back and forth and through time, and to the stars and the heavens and the inner planes as well, and back again. And we continue then to what we will call a karmic family. Well, as the name implies, perhaps we could say that a karmic family is one that would own a common debt. A debt. A debt is not necessarily that which is painful. It is simply a debt. It is humanity that assumes that all karmic patterns must be awful things to pay, things that were horrid and done many, many lifetimes altogether, or that the debt is long-standing and that it will take a very long time to pay it off. It is not purgatory that we are speaking of here, a man-made invention at that. A karmic pattern is simply a little bit of a promise, something that you have promised to do. And because you have promised to do it, you must do it. You will do it. So it is bound. Again, the word binding and bound. You are bound to it. You are bound to it by the will. You are bound to it by that which is a promise, a compromise, that which you have compromised to yourself that you would bring about. The idea of compromise, the idea and the structure and the definition that you have of this word, loosely changed and over time, as to say, well, you need not agree, but you will do it. You will agree to do your part of it. Well, long and before the word had this meaning, it was compromise, which meant to bind yourself to a promise, a little bit like a vow, but different. A compromise is that which is more as a debt that you gladly pay. See the difference? When you think of a debt, it is something that you must pay, or an act that you must do, an act of contrition, if you like. A compromise, a little bit different. It is something that you gladly look forward to doing, to giving. It is an act of service. And yes, it is a debt at the same time. But it is one with such clarity, one that truly clears the scales once and now and once and for always, and in your name and that of others. A compromise is that which you are able to do on behalf of another. So yes, it is karmic, but again, not in the old-fashioned sense of the word. The compromise then allows you to work in favor of another, if you like, or to do the work of another. This is not often thought of. It is often thought that each must do their own work. He earned that karmic essence, he must pay that karmic debt. No, there are other ways. One can, in essence, well, loosely put, it could be said that one sells one's karmic debt to another that gladly takes it on, exchanges it for another. Of course, no one completely frees themselves from that which has created, but there are many different ways to see the laws at work and the principles that uphold them. 'Tis not always the eye for an eye, or the very hard work or suffering is what will bring results. It is not that. So those that compromise one with the other, it is a way of, well, dissolving karma, burning karma, exchanging karma, putting off karma, converting it into a dharmic path, if you like. All of this is easily accomplished, and it is accomplished when karmic families come together. Karmic families are those, for instance, in which one that owes comes together with one who is owed. In most of these cases, there is not even a knowing of this. They may come together as best friends, if you like, never even knowing that one owes a debt to the other. And yet, that friend will always be there. I'll always be there for you. You will call and I will answer. Regardless of what you need, I will be there for you. In many ways, this is a compromise, and this then is a family, a karmic family, ones that have been drawn together again, purpose-filled, but in a different way. Karmic families almost always have begun their bind long and longer ago, and not always over hardship. Again, a simple promise, but one that must be kept. one that would benefit many. In karmic families, there is more than one that benefits. So it is not simply the paying off of a loan or a debt. It is not simply the burning off of karma. It is more than that. It is something that is blessed, comes from this. It is a blessed union. It draws others together. It uplifts ones. Perhaps something that you might think of as a hero is simply one that has compromised with others to come forward at a particular time of need, to show themselves, to come from the shadows, to leave behind one truth in favor of a larger truth that supports others. For instance, perhaps, and even one who leaves behind a school or a career in order to move into another environment in which others are of need. This also then brings together karmic families. To some then, again, it is that which brings together those that are bound together by a common debt, but one that is gladly paid. It draws together those of that common thought, others that have seen it at work, others then that would free themselves or others in the process by agreeing, and gladly so, to take on these assignments. There are many, many karmic families in the world and beyond as well, one of the more common structures, if you like. And again then, to examine this, we will say that there are those families, if you like, that we will call now human families. What you call family dynamics. The dynamics of mother and father and brother and sister and cousin and aunt and uncle and grandparents and babes in arms and like that. A human family in its truest sense of the word. An extended family, a birth family. All of this brought together into the human family. And how many times and how many ways has this been developed? How many different ways has this been defined? How many different ways have there been for families to live together and to live apart? To live in a commune style, if you like, all together. To live with 2 husbands or 2 wives, or many of these, as many tribes are still able to do. It is only a matter of structure. It matters not whether you will agree that one man ought to have 1 wife, or 1 wife ought take only 1 man. These, then, are your moral ideas. These are your social standards. But they have very little to do with the idea of family. Family draws ones together for purpose. It draws together, at times based upon love, at times based upon need. Human families, then, need one another. So here, indeed, we have a different description, not always a heavenly one, not always a perfect one, not in perfect hierarchy. Human families, particular at this time, need one another. Relationships, man, woman, need one another, whether they know it or believe it or not. Human families come together then out of need to complement one another, because currently the human being is a rather lonely being. Because now, more than at other times, the human being has forgotten the being part and remembers the human part. Now, more than at other times, there is in fact more difficulties, more hardship upon the earth, more worry, more concern. And during these needful times, families come together a little bit more. Perhaps they will be more tight-knit, perhaps not. But they will come together nonetheless. Yes, they will rebel against each other, they will fight against one another, and this one will say, but I don't get along with that one, and matters not, for family is in the nature of family. And in this way they will come together. So a human family is a dynamic, movable thing, a little bit like a creature that is moving toward itself and away from itself, stalking itself at times, becoming the hunter and the hunted at times. The family seeks itself, and then seeks to be away from itself, draws together, as in the case of certain holidays or birthdays or days of celebration, only to come apart and wonder why they had come together to begin with. Out of need, out of need. The human structure needs itself now, and it needs more than at other times to remember what means family, to remember all of the different family structures that we have described. And here we are only enumerating some of them, for there are others. However, these are the primary forces now affecting, intersecting with humanity. So the human family then is that based upon birth or birth order, even that which is of an adoptive nature, even that which has come together. A human family, then, is to support itself. It is a human support system. It is a ladder, each one coming together to move upon the rungs of the ladder, from the very top to the very bottom. The generations move and shift one to the other. A human family, then, is and has always been that which supports itself and supports each other. It is the human family that wishes for the next generation to do better than the last. Whether or not it can matters not. It is the human family that sees the child and then the grandchild and says, it is well and it is good. It is the human family that knows pride and the pride that swells within a heart. It is the human family that desires, needs family, and will do what it will do to draw it together, to hold it together, to insist upon it, to be the glue of that family. And yes, at times to rebel against it and to break it at times and to find another family to join, for such is the nature of these times as well, where certain bounds and vows are broken. And so be it, the atoms will reform themselves into something else, into something greater or something smaller or something less. Families make and remake themselves at this time. The shortened family, extended family, and the exiled family, and what it will be. It is the time then of human families to redefine themselves. And in redefining themselves, we must then speak of the future family. The future family is that which is still becoming. For now, the very structure of family is threatened, if you like. But it is threatened purposely. It threatens itself in order to say, oh, this structure no longer works, we must make another. And then it will. And so the future family, a little bit more like an extended family, will not require the blood ties. A future family may be a grouping of those that come together, a like-minded family, if you like. A like-minded, loosely based family that says, you are now mine and I am yours. I adopt you and you will adopt me, and we need say no more about it. From now on, our ties are ones that are exact and perfect. And so the future of family, the future family itself, becomes different now. It remakes itself. It is based upon friendship finding itself. It is based upon ancestors awakening to a certain memory of why they have come together. It is two or more families then blending together. It is the highlights, it is the view, it is the understanding. It is a philosophical family that sees the same star and follows the same star. For comes now a time of believing and non-believing, therefore believers and non-believers. Of this or of that, of the way to be, of the place to go, of how to hold the reins of a family, of how to hold the finances or the idea of work or job or study or career or school. All of these then come now under scrutiny first, and then they will come unraveled. That is the way. Threads will come unraveled. that which binds can also unbind in order to bind again. So it is not that the structure of family is threatened, as some will say that it is in their moral ways. No, it is not that. It is that the very idea of family wishes to change. It wishes to become something else. It wishes to have a different or a better or a lighter purpose. The architecture itself, that which has been dense, or where the foundation has been too heavy, the base of the pyramid perhaps too heavy, the pinnacle too light. Well, it is well to invert it then, for those who understand and those who know that a pyramid could easily stand upon its point as well. That the base, if it is a truly balanced base, it can very well be at the top, and it need not be touching the ground at all. So it is the same with families. It does not need the firmest of foundations. It simply needs a foundation that binds and that upholds. So here we have described a variety of different family structures. Yes, the family is a structure. Just as the body holds together, all of the cells in a body form a family. The family, all the organs in your body form a family. The solar system, of which the earth is a part, is a family. Gaia has brothers and sisters and cousins in the family. Within the solar system then extends to the galaxy, the extended family, if you like. You see, it is no different, the hierarchy of planets or the hierarchy of man. And from there to the universe, or, if you like, from the physical worlds to the heavens, to the soul families, and to planets as yet unformed, and to stars that shine their light, but have no physical origin or need for that. All of this, then, is architecture. It is family. It is how light, intelligent light, binds itself. It binds itself by the heart, and what the heart wishes. It binds itself to service, as we said, in the soul family. It extends itself here and there and beyond, just as you do. Therefore recognize that you already belong to a variety of different families. You are an integral part of a soul family, without doubt. You have a physical gender, therefore you belong to that family as well. It is likely, though not entirely necessary, that there is a tribe that once called you by a different name, and some part of you still would give blood, if it need be, to that. And yes, there are purposes within you that are unique to you, but you seek the similarities in others, and find not only camaraderie, but a true family tie to those with the same purpose. The ancestors that are yours, whether you think of them as your own family or not, the body recognizes them. When you look in the mirror, something that you see there recognizes the ancestors. Yes, you carry them, you live with them, both ancestors of the stars and of the earth as well. Karma? Yes, you have free will and the freedom to know a karmic tie, not in its suffering capacity, but in its way to serve others, to do for others what they cannot do for themselves, to be favored by others, to loosen the binds for others, to loosen the chains of others that they have bound around themselves, to be of service to them in such a way that you too become lighter in your own, and that you are a part of a human family, in what capacity it may be. Like it that you do or like it that you do not, you are part of a human family, with all of its cause for celebration and its woes of complaint. And yes, because you find yourself upon the earth at this time, you are also then part of the new paradigm family, to loosen the binds of the old, to dismantle, to destroy, to recreate, and to form another or a next family, or to assist others in doing the same, with great care, and to take delight that you are of the last and you are of the first. So be it, sweet. You are the architecture of light of the earth. You form the family of humanity, the family of man, that and more, and the family of Gaia, as I too am at your service, and I too am your family. I bid you good day.